Welcome back to another Colors of Prague. It's been a while since I did the recap from Cruise to the Edge 2022. There's many things here to review and to mention, to discuss. One thing is the recent passing of Alan White, longtime drummer for Yes, as well as the drummer for John Lennon's Plastic Ono Band. Yes was originally going to be doing a relayer tour of Europe, and that was changed to a Close to the Edge tour with Jay Shellen filling in on some parts, as he's been doing in the past few years. And then recently, this is all the past few weeks, past 2 to 3 weeks, they announced that Alan would not be drumming this tour, and that Jay Shellen will be filling in. And then a week later, it was announced on Facebook and then in all media that Alan White had passed. As of now, we're not quite sure what uh, the condition was that led to this rather sudden change, but much like Charlie Watts and the Stones, unable to drum on the recent tour that they did a year ago in the US. And then a few weeks later, he had passed and Steve Jordan filled in. And he had asked Steve to fill in while he was ill. And then, boom. So I want to acknowledge I met Alan White a few times. And he always seemed to be a very nice fellow. He had a very happy no one's ever said a bad word about him. Anyway, I just wanted to acknowledge that before going on to this batch of reviews. So, as I said, there's a lot I wanted to cover from bands from all around the world. Someone said, well, why the colors of Prague? And it's because the way I looked at it is each country has a flag. Get it? And each flag for every country that exists now, more to come probably, has a flag with their colors and possibly a logo and such. And um, since I'm covering progressive music from all around the world, I thought, well, that represents the colors of the country's flag. So, colors of Prague, progressive rock. That's being said. So, we're going to do a few oddities. We're going to do a mix and match this time. So, Marillion. Yes, I don't talk about Marillion often. So Marillion, originally formed by Fish, real name Derek William Dick, Steve Rothery, Pete Travavas, Mark Kelly, and Mick Pointer on drums, first signed to EMI Records in 1982. And they released a couple of classic albums and EPs. Most famously, Script for a Jester's Tale, Fugazi, Misplaced Childhood, and Clutching at Straws. They even experienced a UK and US hit with the song Kaylee. Unfortunately, documented alcohol and drug use, allegedly, plus personal issues, had Fish leaving the band, and Steve Hogarth, here on known as H, why, I don't know, but that's a thing, formerly of the obscure band The Europeans, replaced him in 1989. So there are those who like the Fish years and those who like the Hogarth, which is like Marillion 2.0, because they're almost like a different band. So anyway, and then there's those who like both. I tend to like the Fish material more, as odd and strange as it is. It's progressive and progressive pop, and he's a unique performer. He's still out there. He's still going strong. Bless him. Steve Hogarth is another eccentric performer on the other scale. So, but we're not here to discuss that as much. So, Brave was the first Hogarth Marillion notable release in '94, and Marbles in 2004 also people took note of the band. Even though they were somewhat, I would think, dour self-reflection albums, they are considered among Marillion 2.0's better work. And unfortunately, though, while the Fish era Marillion albums managed to break through to the sales marketplace, and due to beside Kaylee, there were a couple other really powerful songs. Some of the songs were actually on movie soundtracks, stuff like that. The it looked like the marketplace was showing an increasingly uninterested side. But that being said, Marillion has a close knit, loyal, growing, but nearly cult like audience who embraces this current version of Marillion, which has been around for a long time. So, to that end, performing live and releasing live albums through ever more obscure labels. So I did some research, and apparently, since 1999, there have been 50 official live Marillion albums. Now, they do a lot of festivals. They do Marillion weekends in different countries. They've done it in Canada. They've done it in Europe. They've done it in South America. And it's pretty crazy. They're sold out. You get to sometimes meet the band, and you just like different sets. The opening bands are like Marillion tribute bands. I had a friend that went to the Canada one for a long weekend, and he said there was a Marillion tribute band that did primarily a Fish years, which is probably interesting if you were going to check that out. And then there was a Marillion tribute band that did the later years, which is kind of odd because Marillion's a headliner. Anyway, so that's being said. So, With Friends at St. David's is one of these releases. Here you go, folks. This is from 2021. It features the band performing with 3 violinists, a cellist, and a flute, and a French horn player. So, but what's on this 2-disc set, recorded at St. David's Hall in Cardiff, England, November 16th, 2019, released on Racket Records via Edsel. It's not any of the more well-known Marillion Hogarth songs. They cherry pick some things. They really wanted to do what they could do with an orchestra. I actually enjoyed it, and it's a little different. It's plays to the Hogarth or H strengths, be them as they may, of making this a how can I compare this to people who aren't familiar with this band as they are now? It's like, does everyone remember the Cult? The rockin' band came out of nowhere. I believe it was the mid-'80s. And She Sells Sanctuary was one of their lead songs. Eventually the band broke up, and the lead singer was briefly in the Reformed Doors. This is true. I forgot his name. They were a really good band. So a smaller, slower version of the Cult. Smaller being in terms of aural sense. AURAL. But yeah, this is like dreamy, still playing up to that, the Marillion as they are now sound. But I enjoyed this. And they did that, and they also released 2 years prior, in 2019, Marillion With Friends from the Orchestra. So it's pretty much the same lineup, if not the same exact members of the orchestra band. And this is not a live album. This is pretty much a work done in a recording area space, not the studio so much. It features some of the songs that they chose, like Estonia and Strange Engine, that appear on this one, the live one from a year later. And this is also a quite enjoyable work if you like symphonic progressive music. And this really plays more into that than most of the Marillion's later releases. Then you would enjoy these too. And it's With Friends at St. David's and With Friends from the Orchestra. I know, very strangely named. Be that as it may, I do want to say I've been listening to a lot of Marillion lately. A lot of them, as I said, there's 50 live releases. And I have a few I really enjoyed. And I'll be getting to them in later episodes of The Colors of Prog. But I did want to say that me personally, in my opinion, and this is all about like film. It's audio visual thing. Film is a visual thing, but with sound design as it is, and music and scores, it's audio visual. So this is primarily an audio thing, unless you have a DVD or Blu-ray and you're watching a concert that was filmed in tape. I do believe An Hour Before Dark, the 2022 release by Marillion, to be among their very best of the Marillion albums, probably the best in Sphere. It's my personal opinion, but enough of Marillion right now. I just wanted to mention these are two very good, enjoyable, and different recordings from the later Marillion period. So, what do I have next? We're going to Italy. Maschera di Cera, Wax Mask. Wax Mask, or the Mask of Wax, you choose, is fairly much Fabio Zaffanti. He's a hard-working member of many Italian bands, including Finisterre, which has actually been recording since 1995, and alternately Host Sonatan, that's a mouthful, active since 1996. And as a solo artist, Fabio Zaffanti has been doing other work as well. Some of his bands tend to lean more into the metal area of progressive rock, and some of his material seems to lean more into the symphonic era. And this band, Wax Mask, tends to lean more into a retro symphonic area. So it's definitely different from his other bands, and it's certainly something else. I have a few Wax Masks albums, CDs, that are a little bit more harder, a little bit more rocker, and some that are a little bit more symphonic. And this one is probably, if you want to try them out, the Porte del Domani is definitely one I highly recommend. And I'll tell you why. So Alessandro Corvaglia of the RPI band Delirium, if you remember them, and you can look them up, they released their first album, Dolce Acqua, in 1971. And Alessandro, they're famously known for releasing one well-known, highly regarded Italian progressive rock album and then breaking up and then reforming years later. And they do it occasionally for rock festivals in Italy. So anyway, Corvaglia guested on the Host No Snotten, it's a tongue twister, Host on Nothing, sorry folks, recording, but it's front and center here. And this was released in 2013, as well as an English language version called The Gates of Tomorrow, released in 2013. So why are there two? So I'll get to that in a second, because they're not the only Italian band that has done an Italian and English language version of the same recording. And while some have just basically re-recorded the vocal tracks in English language and left the original instrumental tracks, and so therefore the running time is nearly identical. In this case, they have re-recorded the whole album. So anyway, so the Porte del Domani, which is the Italian language English translation and the English language version, is The Gates of Tomorrow. It's developed as a heavily inspired by and tribute to Les Armies, Folona and Serona from 1973. There's a host of retro RPI sounds here, especially with the prominent keyboards, grand piano, Fender Rhodes, Hammond organ, Mellotron, and there's that very trebly bass playing that Zufante is very good at, and there's even flute players. Alessandro Caravoglia's vocals are still great, and they've gotten, he's older now, so they're in that Fish Peter Gabriel, but not quite range, a little raspy. Also, I found very interesting, there's a nod to Lalo Schifrin, of all people. Yes, the great jazz, and then later well known for his film and television scores. There's a reprise a few times on both versions of this CD that you will know it when you hear it. I don't want to spoil it. It's kind of made me smile. Like, I know this. Everybody knows this. Like Les Armies, the other Italian band who this was a tribute to, who recorded an English language version also in '73 of Folona, and then again with the alternate lineup in 2016, and PFM and Banco, who also did, PFM did Chocolate Kings and a few other things, and Banco did one or two albums. Maschera, Wax Mask, recorded English language version by going in and re-recording everything, and you could hear the difference. You could hear the difference in the instrumentation and everything. So I really like these. This is really for lovers of symphonic prog. Good vocals, the well recorded. Maybe not that easy to find. For lovers of vinyl, it's going to run you a bit. But if you could find the CDs, the English version was on HMS, and the AMS is the original Italian version. So again, really like these. We're going out with a real oddity here. L'Ombra Della Sera. So, the Evening Shadow is a translation. So it's another Fabio Zufante side project with Agostino Mecor on keyboards and Maurizio Di Tolo on drums. Pretty much a trio, but there are other people guesting. It's purely an all-instrumental album with 5 tracks running 45 minutes in total. And the band recorded this as a tribute to Italian thriller scores. Wow. From both television and the big screen. These are all covers. There's Enrico Simonetti's theme from an Italian sci-fi TV show, Enrico Simonetti being the father of Claudio Simonetti of Goblin fame. There's a reprise of Roberto Pisano theme from a crime drama the same year, Riz Ortolani track from a television show about murders and an Etruscan tomb. Fans of Italian thrillers. There's a crossover of some Italian RPI people who really are well informed quite a bit about Italian thrillers and Italian crime dramas and the composers that did that work. So there's a bit of a crossover there, but these guys, Zufante was really, besides being interested and influenced by early Italian progressive rock musicians and their work, for example, Leorme, he was very much influenced by Italian film and television soundtrack composers. So that's what this is. This is pretty weird. I mean, the sounds here, all being instrumental, bring to mind somewhat like bands like Goblin, which is surely an influence. It's moody, it's symphonic. Again, is well documented. Trebly bass is to the fore. Itself seemingly influenced maybe by Fabio Pignatelli of Goblin. And Fabio Pignatelli of Goblin, I think, may have been at the same time or possibly influenced by Chris Squire, yes, who had an infamous, powerful bass playing sound and style. So anyway, so that was pretty much today's L'Ombra Della Sera, the Evening Shadow, the Wax Mask, and Marillion. So it's a bunch of oddities for everyone to check out. It's brief reviews of them as well. And so I'll be back with some more international scope material very soon. Stay safe, stay well. See you all next time.